Innovative volunteerism is a mindset change for all of us.
Today we're going to discuss a very, very fundamental topic, which is unsafe food, Africa's silent killer? Well, let's start with an African proverb, which is that if you give bad food to your stomach, it drums for you to dance. This African proverb underscores a simple yet critical fact. What we eat determines what our bodies become. The common saying, "we are what we eat," is indeed not far from the truth. Whenever we fall sick, among the first areas of diagnosis is usually what we have ingested. In the same vein, among key aspects for patient recovery and improvement is food. So the question is, what are we really eating? In sub-Saharan Africa, urbanization is occurring at a rate of 3.6%, a rate that is almost double the world's average. With these transitions comes an increase in food demand and a rise in urban food and informal food traders. For example, up to 90% of the supply of leafy vegetables in some African cities is sourced from urban farms and supplied through informal traders. This is critical to not only driving food security in urban Africa, but also creating primary and supplemental income opportunities. In some cities, the economic return to urban farmers is estimated to be comparable to the income of unskilled construction workers, and in some cases, more lucrative. During dry seasons, in some cities, farmers using wastewater irrigation, which is free, can sell vegetables at above double the wet season price. What's the point? There are an abundance of health risks associated with many common practices of urban farming, including hazardous biological and chemical exposures to farmers and consumers as a result of the use of wastewater on vegetable crops. The science is telling us that microbial as well as heavy metals contamination on vegetable samples obtained from sewage-irrigated urban farms have been found to contain lead contamination that is up to 3.9 times higher than recommended limits. This is in addition to high soil concentration levels of other heavy metals, including cadmium, chromium, copper, nickel, lead, and zinc. And if current balances persist for another 1 to 2 decades, vegetables raised in some of these urban gardens will likely be unsuitable for human consumption. This also includes sewage effluent, which contains high levels of essential plant nutrients. As a result, some urban farmers prefer to use wastewater despite the availability of fresh water because they get free fertilizers. As many as 60% of urban farmers in some African cities use wastewater for irrigation. In just one African country, an estimated 1 million people in urban areas eat vegetables produced with polluted water every day. Globally, as we speak today, wastewater crop irrigation risks the health of nearly 1 billion people. These heavy metals, associated with diverse health complications from cancer to skin damage, to kidney damage, to heart disease, to anemia, to cholesterol and gastrointestinal disorders. So the question is, how can achieving food safety in Africa's informal sector under the changing climate be achieved? Well, the point is that informal food traders and supply chains are the major source of vegetable and food consumption in African cities. That's a fact. Measures to inculcate food safety need to be undertaken to reverse the silent suffering of millions of lives across the continent. These measures need to strategically work with the environment, not against the environment. Leveraging climate action solutions with a combination of incentives that can drive smart enforcement within local structures is a viable solution to the growing crisis of the unsafe harvesting of foods that is affecting millions across the continent. And the first thing to do is we must focus on traceability. The food from urban farms sold by informal traders must be traceable from farming to value addition until it reaches the final consumer. Every bunch of fresh leafy vegetables that we pick at any informal trader or any place must be accounted for how it was cultivated. Was it cultivated using any form of dangerous contamination? Foods cultivated using nature-based approach, what we call EBA, and processed using clean energy solutions like solar dryers, specifically grown using organic, should actually be what we must be able to do, and leveraging on countries' bureaus of standards. For example, like Uganda has developed a market incentive guide that incorporates these climate action solutions to drive food safety, to drive health, quality, and environmental sustainability as benchmarks. And for example, cassava value chains are using this And this is a clear policy incentive that is helping inform people to be able to work with environment, not against the environment, use organic inputs, use biofertilizer inputs, process the food using clean energy solutions like solar dryer. And this is how safe food can be achieved. The second point is we must leverage on communal structures to ensure accountability and traceability. Every member and the farm they operate should be traced and inspected to verify compliance and issue formal compliance certifications. That's what and must become the norm. The structures of cooperatives in the continent needs to be leveraged for traceability and checks. Through such, these cooperatives will then become not only centers for pooling resources and mobilizing capital, but also checking members to ensure safe production. In addition, through pooling these resources, informal food actors can afford capital assets they need to achieve compliance. For example, through these cooperatives, rainwater harvesting equipment could be acquired for members to ensure water used for irrigation is safe. Solar dryers critical for safe value addition could likewise be acquired. Training on the safe use of fertilizers could also be delivered in addition to prioritizing organic fertilizers that are eternally safe. Turning waste to biofertilizer, youth are doing this. And that takes me to the third point, which is leveraging youth enterprise action as complementary in delivering these climate action solutions, which are critical in actualizing food safety incentives in Africa. The safer production approaches demanded by standard benchmarks, be it organic fertilizer in place of chemical fertilizer, be it solar dryer for safe value addition or rainwater harvesting equipment, all present enterprise opportunities for willing youth, thus driving production. The premium for such enterprises must be the willingness of young people to retool their skills, to improve, to refine and adapt their skills, and work selflessly with their peers to develop solutions through enterprise actions. Across the continent today, innovative volunteerism is driving these solutions that can ensure food safety in the continent. Leveraging on talents of willing youth, using locally available material and developing, for example, solar dryers that are actually helping not only to ensure drying of food is safe, but there is also biofertilizer, which is another area where young people are converting agricultural waste, be it rice hulls or maize cobs or other agricultural waste, into organic fertilizer. And they are creating enterprises. The same approach should be applied to rainwater harvesting. And to catalyze these enterprises, policy, which is the biggest driver of change, will need to be in tandem to lower enterprise costs. A critical step could be zero rating taxes on materials and equipment required to develop such solutions. In Ghana, for example, a policy aimed at driving the adoption of clean coke stoves, experiencing a leap in non-state actors' investment towards implementation through a policy move to zero rate taxation on clean coke stoves value chain. What does this tell us? We can achieve food safety because we know we are what we eat, and this must become our urgent clearance call. Let's drive food safety because that's the way we can ensure transformational development as we bring climate action impacts to scale. Thank you.
Let's embrace innovative volunteerism. Ah ouais, let's go.